So the first story of this evening was originally posted by a Reddit user called Hours and Hours. Their story is called She Looks Like the One. When I turned 9, my parents finally let me start walking to school. It wasn't far, and even though they were worried, I assured them I would be fine. I was so excited because my best friend lived next door, and that meant that we could walk to school and back together every day. Things were going great the first few weeks, and we had so much fun laughing and talking all the way to school and all the way back home. Now, there was a liquor store along the way that we would stop at on the way home to get some snacks and candies, but only on a Friday. That was our little treat and the thing we looked forward to at the end of the week. Now, one Friday afternoon after school, we began our walk to the liquor store, talking about school as usual. It was just like any other time that we went to the store. We would rush in, laughing all the way to the candy. We would pick out our favorites and hop in line to pay. But this time, there was a man with a pack of beer, and he looked like he worked in construction or something. He was in line before us with another man, but when he saw us, he let us go first. Now, we thought that he was just being nice, so we happily obliged, and as I talked to the cashier, my friend stayed behind me. I could hear the two men behind us speaking in Spanish and laughing, so I turn around to look and I see my friend with a very nervous look on her face. She grabbed my arm hardly after I paid, and she practically pulled me out of the store. I kept asking her what was wrong, and she said she didn't feel safe and we should just run home. I was confused, and I wanted us to enjoy our candy on the way back like we always did, until she told me what she had heard. I don't speak Spanish, but she did, and apparently the two men were talking about me. She said that one of them pointed at me and said, "She looks like the one." They both laughed and agreed, and the one with the beer said, "Let's follow them and we can grab her around the corner. She's small and she won't put up a fight." I froze in fear when I heard this. We were still in the parking lot of the store and didn't know what to do. We looked around us and saw the two men get into a big work truck. They didn't even glance our way. So I told my friend that they were probably just joking and we were being paranoid for being scared. But boy, was I wrong. My friend didn't agree with me and said they were definitely serious and we should start running. I was hesitant at first until I turned around and the truck was right behind us. I took one look at my friend and we grabbed hands and ran as fast as we could. Our hearts were racing and we didn't dare to turn around. We were both crying and I ended up dropping our bag of candy slammed on the brakes and started honking. We just kept running until we were about a block from our houses. We were out of breath and hysterical. We thought we'd made it, but then we heard a whistle, and we look, and it's the truck. The men were on the other side of the street, windows down, whistling at us. We had no option but to run as fast as we could to our house. My mum was in the front garden and she was shocked to see us running and screaming. We couldn't get the words out right. All we managed to say was that a truck was following us. She immediately ran to the street to see the truck peel away. As soon as she calmed us down, she called the police to take a report, but nothing ever came of it, and I was never allowed to walk to school again. I will never, ever understand what goes through the minds of people like this. To target children buying candy at a store that is just sickening. It's lucky that the original poster's friend spoke and understood Spanish, or otherwise, they might not have been prepared or on the lookout for somebody following them, and those two creeps might have actually gotten a chance to grab them. This could have ended so much worse than it did. I'm sure it traumatized them in some way, because that is a really, really scary thing to live through, and especially at such a young age. They were 9 years old. I understand the mum's concern, and I understand that she didn't want them to walk to school on their own anymore. I'm a bit disappointed that the police never found them. You actually don't know how hard they actually tried to find them, because that's often also the problem. They have different priorities, different things going on, and that shouldn't happen, but it does, and it's a shame that these people never got what they deserved. I've said it on here quite a few times, be aware of your surroundings and keep your head on a swivel. It's sad that it's needed, but that's just the way the world is, and we have to deal with it, and we have to make sure we protect ourselves. So please be aware of what's happening around you. Be aware of the people around you. Be aware of their activity. Be aware of any suspicious things that they are doing. And just make sure you stay safe. I'm really glad that nothing happened to the original poster and her best friend, because like I said, this could have gone so much worse. So much worse. Also, what a brave little girl, that best friend, for yelling things in Spanish at them. Very brave, especially at 9 years old. conversation where we were talking about the one major creepy thing that we remember in detail to this very day. After hearing his, I was sure he was going to look at me like I was crazy when I told him my story. His was your average ghost story. Mine is something that I wish was a ghost story. It was 2012. I was 16 years old, working at Worlds of Fun. It was my day off, so I decided to take my little brother to Worlds of Fun, as we got to go in for free since I was an employee. While on the highway, there was a car in front of me, driving 10 under the speed limit. So I moved a lane over with the goal of passing them. When I was side by side with them, they started matching my speed. This went on for 10 minutes. My exit was coming up, and every time I sped up or slowed down to get back over, they would match me, not letting me over. Frustrated, I looked over at the driver. At first, I only saw a bald old lady with a floral sheer scarf on her head, but then I looked at her face. The fear I still remember to this day. It wasn't your average old lady. Nay. I personally feel like it wasn't an old lady at all. Her face was covered in wrinkles. Her eyes were black, narrow slits. Her nose is what you see on an evil witch in Hollywood films. You know, the long nose with the warts. Her teeth were long and sharp, hooked by thin lips. I still remember the smile she gave me. She consistently looked at me and then back to the road, her hands aggressively shaking on the steering wheel. Each time I looked back at her, her smile was bigger and bigger. Since I was driving, I had to look at the road, but I kept looking back at her, hoping I was seeing things. I looked at the road, horrified, must already be confused by the fact that it's an old lady, showing this road rage towards you, and you look over into their car and then you see that they have like this horrible, unnatural, big smile with sharp teeth and this really creepy, warty nose. Like, this is mental. I guess like special effects makeup could be an explanation for this, although I feel like the teeth would probably be harder to do with special effects makeup. But I'm also not a specialist, so I don't really know. So maybe it was like an actor with a temper or something, travelling to the set of a film, some kind of horror film. But Jesus Christ, I would be extremely terrified if I saw that. I'm also already nervous driving on the motorway, and if you then get confronted with road rage, and to make matters even worse, it's some kind of old lady witch demon monster driving the car. I mean, I wouldn't care about my exit anymore either. I'm glad nothing happened though to the original poster and her brother. I'm glad they managed to peel out of there, and I'm glad they managed to make it home safe. Alright, so now I would love to tell you about what happened to me last Thursday. Now by the time you see this video though, it'll have been a couple weeks ago. Now, if you've watched my personal scary stories video, which I've referenced quite a few times already, you know that I'm a teacher and I go to work by train, so I commute with public transport every single day. And let me tell you, I am so fed up of it, because the amount of creeps that I have seen and that I have met on public transport, on the train, in stations, it is mind-blowing. Now last Thursday I met another one. Alrighty, there we go. So, I had finished my day and I was on the way back home. I got to the train station a little bit early, I think. I was there about 10 minutes before my train left. Now usually the train is like right on time, like on the time that it's supposed to leave. It comes into the station and then everyone gets on and it immediately leaves. But not today, because the train was also a little bit early, which great for me because it was quite cold, so I already got on the train and I picked one of the seats. Now, the carriage that I sat in was practically empty. There was 2 kids also sat there, but they were, the kind of age that the kids that I teach are, so I think about 12, 13, that kind of age. But aside from them, that carriage was empty. Now the way it is over here with the trains is that you've got double seats in rows, and then a pathway in the middle, and then double seats with rows in rows again on the other side. So I sat down and I put my headphones on and I started listening to my true crime podcast. So I sat there for about 5 something, but then he doesn't. So I'm kind of confused, but I'm like, I don't know this guy. Maybe he thought he recognized me and then changed his mind or something. So I decided to just ignore it and look out the window. So this guy then walks past me and sits down about 2 rows behind me on one of the seats. Now, I didn't think anything of this, but not even 30 seconds later, he stands back up, walks over to the seats that line up with mine across from that little pathway in the middle, and he sits down there. Now, at this point, I'm like, oh, here we go again. Like, it's another one of those creepers who would rather, watch me for the entire journey than, be on their phone like any other normal person. Now, I thought of moving, but then I didn't because I was like, I shouldn't have to move for somebody being a creeper. And secondly, if he decides to also move with me, then what am I going to do? There's always this voice in the back of my mind that tells me, Julie, you are being paranoid. Do you see what I mean? I need more proof. I feel this guy is sketchy, but I need more proof. So the train leaves and I'm looking out the window, and from the corner of my eye I see him glancing over multiple times. I choose to ignore this until I see also from the corner of my eye that he's being shady with his phone, like he's holding it in a really weird way. So I look over and I see that he's angling his phone. Wait, I'll show you. He's angling his phone like this so that it would be filming me. He wasn't tapping on it. That's just me. But he was angling it like that so I could see his camera. So I gave him a really, really dirty look. I looked at him so angrily and then I just flung myself towards the window so that basically all he could see of me was my back. That actually sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Anyways, on with the story. Now, he seems to get the hint because I don't notice him being shady with his phone anymore. So then his stop comes up, and I'm actually really, really thankful for this because I was kind of scared that he was going to be following me to my stop. So his stop comes up and it's 2 stops before mine. So he stands up and he puts his coat on and he starts walking towards where the doors are. So I'm like, phew, finally I can sit in my chair in a normal manner again and I don't have to, force myself into uncomfortable positions for this guy. So when he stood in that little hallway where the doors are, I just go back to sitting in my seat like a normal person. Now, I am still keeping an eye on him though, and what I notice him doing next is just plain creepy. There's no other word to describe that. So, I see him moving backwards in this hallway, trying to still see me in my seat. So I kind of just sink into my seat like this, and he just goes backwards and he's looking over the seats and standing on his tippy toes to just catch another glimpse of me. Luckily, I realised what he was doing and I was just sinking into my seat like that because I didn't want him to see me anymore. Now the train stops and the doors open, and facing this window and he's just staring right at me. He's not moving, he's not looking away, he just keeps on staring at me. So what do? I grab my phone. I'm like, I'm gonna film this guy now, because now he's outside the train and he can't do anything anymore. So I take my phone and I open the camera app, and I have an iPhone, so at the bottom I swipe to go to video, and I press that red dot, and I'm just sat there angling my phone the way that he had before, thinking I was, getting a good video of this guy. My phone was getting a good look at him. And then he kept on, staring at me until the train left and he was out of view. So I pressed the record button again to stop filming, and I look, and that's when my phone actually starts filming, so I don't have him on video. That was so stupid. I really messed up there. But I was so scared while I was making that video. My heart was properly pounding out of my chest, because I was like, is this really happening? Is this guy really just stood there staring at me? How can you be so creepy? Now, in my mind, there are two possible reasons why he could have done this. Number one, he wanted to abduct me, but, why didn't he try? And why did he get off the train before me? Why didn't he follow me? There's a lot of questions here. Now, second reason I can think of, and I think that is the most plausible one, is that he actually thinks that is how you seduce women. He probably legitimately thinks that is how you show your interest in women. Sneakily taking photos of them and then staring at them through a window. I have no idea, but I will never, ever understand men like that. And it's happened to me personally, all too many times. The amount of times I've been stared at for prolonged periods of time on a train by creepy men is insane. It is mind-blowing, actually. So yeah, I thought I would share that story with you guys, and I hope I never meet that guy again. Sadly, that brings us to the end of tonight's episode. I want to thank the lovely Redditors who